There's a rumor that Vincent van Gogh would eat yellow paint because it looked happy, so perhaps it would make him feel happy. Of course, this is probably a myth, but Van Gogh was crazy enough for this to be believable, either as a result of eating yellow paint or as the cause of him eating yellow paint. Some days, I feel like video game developers have a habit of eating yellow paint as well. So there's a debate that's been raging on the internet recently about a trend in video games, and that trend is the plague of yellow paint. It's everywhere, and it keeps spreading. Now, if you don't understand what I'm talking about, video games have been using the color yellow, mostly in the form of in-game paint, to mark things that are interactable with. Games have really been going overboard with it in recent years. And so the debate is about whether or not it's bad game design, with most people outside of Reddit agreeing that it's bad. I am one of those people, obviously. Well, okay, I have to concede that it's not always bad. It's just typically used in a very poor way. But while I firmly believe that modern games are too easy, I talk about this all the time, I can see the point of visual indicators to help navigate the world in many circumstances. For instance, if navigating is just a circumstantial background task, then yeah, lead the way. But also, you have to ask, is the task necessary? Sometimes it is, like in a dungeon and the primary task is fighting enemies, and traversing the dungeon is a way to introduce enemies at a reasonable pace while also providing interesting environments to fight in. You would need to be able to traverse the dungeon, but it's not really the challenge, so markers probably fine. But oftentimes it isn't necessary, like in a linear path with no enemies or other tasks going on. That might seem obvious to you, but yet this keeps happening in games. A common example is how third-person games tend to have sections where you climb a cliff with a linear path. Why is this a thing? It's time-consuming and provides nothing to the game. When you're in an area with yellow paint, ask yourself, does this add to the game? Would this section be better off by being replaced by a short cutscene? If so, then obviously it was a poor design choice. Duh. Before the plague of yellow paint, sometimes finding the path was the task. So these sections would actually add something to the game. But if the game is going to do the task for you, just cut it. But not only is it often bad for how it's used in meaningless sections of games, but it also simply doesn't fit in with most environments. If you're out in the woods or in a desert, where is the paint coming from? Why is it everywhere? Games used to use a variety of indicators, like slightly different colored rocks or dialogue, sometimes even literal writing on the wall. Just make it fit with the setting. The two defenses of the yellow paint that I've seen is that it helps progress through the area faster, and it's an accessibility thing. So I've already addressed the first thing. If you simply want to get through the area as fast as possible, then it would be better off not in the game. Use a cutscene to skip forward a few seconds in time. But as for accessibility, I don't think that really applies. If you're talking about colorblind people, then there's already plenty of colorblind settings in virtually every game nowadays. A good colorblind setting is going to be much more helpful than slapping yellow paint on stuff. And if your eyesight is just so bad that you need yellow paint to know where to go, you're going to have much bigger problems when you run into enemies in most games. Not only that, but there will pretty much always be guides on how to get through any section of any game. Like, even when I was a little kid, you could go on the internet, there was plenty of game forums where people would tell you exactly what to do if you needed it. And so that way, you can get through a part that's maybe too difficult for you without ruining the experience for everybody else. Seriously though, no one would care about the yellow paint if it wasn't used so poorly and so often. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments if you dislike the yellow paint, like the yellow paint, or haven't even noticed the yellow paint. Thank you for watching the video. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you want to see more from me. That's it for today. See ya.
Where is the paint coming from? Why is it everywhere?